Long before maps were drawn and borders were imagined, there existed a stretch of land so ancient and so storied that its very soil seemed to pulse with forgotten memories that refused to stay silent. Today, travelers step into that same landscape without fully realizing that each path they tread is layered with the echoes of countless generations whose footsteps shape the spirit of this place. At first, all you notice is the warmth, a soft, golden, almost nostalgic kind of warmth that wraps around you with the uncanny familiarity of something you feel you've known all your life. Then as your eyes adjust, the shapes begin to appear with quiet drama, a deep curve of impossible blue in one direction, and in another, a stone silhouette rising as if carved by the hands of time itself. The wind behaves almost theatrically here, swirling around your body in sweeping motions, carrying whispers that feel like recitations from a long-forgotten tale still lingering in the air. Shadows seem to linger far longer than they should, stretching across an ancient earth that has watched more sunsets, storms, and seasons than any human story could ever record. Somewhere in the distance, cliffs rise with a confidence so absolute they seem almost divine, while below them the sea waits patiently, as if holding its breath for something sacred. Peaks tower above like watchful guardians, their presence subtle yet undeniably powerful, as though they're measuring every traveler who dares to pass through. Islands shimmer at the horizon line, glowing with a mysterious allure, as if they're hiding secrets they will only reveal to those willing to look a little closer. Slowly, you start to feel suspended between two worlds, one anchored in the present with its familiar logic, and one woven from myth, legend, and energies that can't quite be explained. Until suddenly, in a moment that feels both quiet and monumental, the truth clicks into place. Only one land on Earth looks like this, feels like this, and breathes with such timeless magic. A land shaped not just by geography, but by gods, by time, and by a wonder that refuses to fade. Welcome to Wonder of Greece. Discover the hidden magic of the Mediterranean. Athens and Acropolis. Athens, Attic. There are cities that whisper their stories quietly to those who care enough to listen. And then there is Athens, a city that doesn't just speak, but resonates with the bold, echoing confidence of an ancient civilization that once shaped the very foundation of the Western world. Sitting majestically at the crossroads where Europe, Asia, and Africa gently meet, this sun-drenched capital unfurls across the Attic Peninsula like an ancient tapestry woven from marble brilliance, mythic echoes, and timeless human memory. Every pathway and winding street seems to pull your gaze upward toward the Acropolis, a monumental citadel rising like a stone crown, half sculpted by the hands of the gods, half perfected by the genius of humanity. History in Athens never hides behind dusty museum glass or textbook pages. Instead, it stands openly beneath the same radiant sunlight that once guided philosophers, generals, artisans, and dreamers who walked these same stones millennia ago. The Acropolis itself feels almost animate, its ancient foundations vibrating with whispers of Pericles' ambition, Athena's protection, and the countless craftsmen whose precise strokes carved its astonishing geometry. Scientists and architects still puzzle over the Parthenon's ingenious tricks, its subtly curved columns and imperceptibly tilted foundations that counteract optical distortions to create a visual perfection the human eye instinctively recognizes. Yet beneath all that marble grandeur, Athens pulses with a wildly contrasting energy, a blend of bustling markets, artistic alleyways, lively cafes, and nightly music that together form the heartbeat of modern Greek life. In the lively districts of Monastiraki and Plaka, the irresistible aroma of grilled souvlaki, crisp olive oil, smoky lamb skewers, and warm homemade pita hangs in the air just as firmly as any ancient myth carved in stone. Athens' wildlife reveals itself in unexpected ways. Tortoises wandering nonchalantly across archaeological ruins and falcons circling above the hills, almost as though nature itself has joined the ancient guardianship of the city. The city carries its own collection of strange and captivating myths, like the belief that some stones on the Acropolis Hill still hold echoes of divine energy, subtly influencing the moods and emotions of those who walk across them. Locals love to recount that the olive tree beside the Erechtheion is believed to be a descendant of the sacred tree Athena gifted to Athens, a symbol of wisdom, resilience, and peace that continues to stand proudly through time. Even the natural geography of Athens feels theatrical, with surrounding mountains forming natural amphitheaters that catch, bend, and reflect sunlight in ways that create breathtaking, almost spiritual moments at sunrise and sunset. If you pay attention, the city reveals quiet scientific wonders too, like the way patches of marble and limestone absorb and release heat, creating tiny temperature pockets that subtly shift airflow above the ancient landscape. Here's a fun fact that surprises even seasoned travelers. Archaeologists estimate that only about 15% of ancient Athens has been excavated, meaning the city is still hiding countless secrets beneath its modern streets. Whispers circulate about mysterious tunnels running beneath the Acropolis, some rumored to lead to forgotten sanctuaries and chambers whose original purposes remain shrouded in time. Modern Athenians live with a beautiful blend of pride, humor, resilience, and warm hospitality, often welcoming visitors with the kind of affection reserved for old friends returning after long journeys. Street musicians fill narrow lanes with the soulful sound of bouzouki strings, turning even an ordinary evening stroll into a moment that feels like a scene from an old-world film. You might notice that even casual conversations here effortlessly drift into philosophical reflections, as if the spirit of Socrates still wanders the city, correcting faulty arguments and encouraging deeper questions. As the day fades, Athens' sunsets turn unforgettable. Marble structures glow gold, then soften into rose, and finally melt into a mystic violet that feels almost otherworldly in its beauty. When night fully arrives, the Acropolis transforms into a floating lantern of light, hovering like a silent guardian watching over the sprawling city that once shaped human thought. Travel tip: head to the Acropolis in the late afternoon when the light softens, the crowds thin, and the entire hill begins to glow with a cinematic radiance that makes the experience feel almost mythical. In the end, Athens and the Acropolis aren't just destinations you visit, they are living chapters of Mediterranean wonder, waiting for you to step inside and let their hidden magic reshape the way you see the world. Santorini, Cyclades, South Aegean. Santorini, perched dramatically in the southern Cyclades, is one of the world's most geologically extraordinary islands, a place carved entirely by volcanic forces whose restless activity continues to sculpt its cliffs, beaches, and breathtaking caldera even today. Its iconic crescent shape wraps around a massive submerged crater formed by the Minoan eruption, a cataclysmic blast so immense it reshaped coastlines, altered atmospheric patterns, and influenced global climate around 1600 BCE. Geologists estimate that this explosion triggered towering tsunamis over 150 feet high, waves so powerful they slammed into distant shores like Crete and contributed to the disruption of the once thriving Minoan civilization. This world-altering event is why many scholars and storytellers connect Santorini with the mysterious tale of Atlantis, a sophisticated society said to vanish in a single catastrophic day of fire, water, and earth shaking beneath it. Clues uncovered in the ancient city of Akrotiri deepen this connection. Multi-story buildings, advanced sewage systems, and intricate frescoes that reveal a level of engineering rarely seen in Bronze Age civilizations. Santorini's climate is directly shaped by its volcanic foundation. Dark lava rocks absorb heat by day, while refreshing sea winds sweep across the caldera cliffs, creating the island's signature, warm yet balancing atmosphere. Its blue and white architecture, famous worldwide for its beauty, is rooted in both practicality and symbolism. White lime-coated walls reflect harsh sunlight, while the vivid blues echo maritime protection beliefs and elements of Greek spiritual identity. The cliffside villages, Fira, Oya, and Imeravigli, perched like watchtowers along the caldera rim, offer sweeping panoramas that illustrate how ancient inhabitants used elevation for safety, visibility, and environmental advantage. The surrounding Aegean Sea displays an unusually vibrant, crystalline tone caused by volcanic minerals suspended in the water, giving Santorini one of the most recognizable seascapes in the world. Its beaches read like geological textbooks, the crimson cliffs of Red Beach enriched with iron oxides, the black volcanic sands of Parissa forged from cooled lava, and the sculpted white formations of Licata carved naturally by centuries of pumice erosion. Volcanic soil, mineral-rich and low in organic material, produces some of the island's most remarkable agricultural treasures, including Santorini's ultra-sweet cherry tomatoes, buttery fava beans, and the bold Assyrtiko grapes known for their intense acidity. The island's wildlife thrives in niches shaped by geology, featuring migratory seabirds nesting in cliff crevices, endemic lizards adapted to harsh rock environments, and marine species nourished by geothermal vents beneath the waves. Fun fact, local grapevines are grown in a distinctive couloura basket shape, a circular weaving method unique to Santorini that shields fruit from fierce winds, volcanic heat, and the island's intense sunlight. Archaeological work on the island continues to unveil new layers of history. Akrotiri itself remains only partially excavated, with vast sections still buried in ash, preserved snapshots waiting to rewrite Bronze Age narratives. Frescoes found at the site depict scenes of boxing children, exotic wildlife, and detailed naval fleets, suggesting a culture deeply connected to exploration, artistry, and maritime trade long before many civilizations reached similar sophistication. Local legends recount strange echoing sounds that drift from the underwater depths of the caldera, believed by some to be the island whispering, though scientists explain these acoustics as volcanic gases shifting through chambers far beneath the seabed. Divers exploring the crater report hearing rhythmic, drum-like vibrations, though research attributes these pulses to geothermal activity and shifting magma far below the ocean floor. Santorini offers a rare three-layer spatial experience. Clifftop villages suspended above the sea, mid-level pathways carved into volcanic rock, and harbors built directly at water level, each layer giving travelers a different perspective on time and terrain. Walking between these zones feels like moving through epochs of Earth's history, each step revealing another chapter shaped by fire, ash, and geological rebirth. Beyond the postcard-famous sights, the island hides lesser-known wonders such as Emporio's medieval fortress district and the ancient, labyrinth-like vineyards of Megalochori that showcase centuries of agricultural resilience. Santorini's gastronomy blends geology with heritage. Smoky flavor notes from volcanic soil, mineral-rich wines aged in ocean-cooled cellars, and dishes crafted from ingredients that have learned to thrive in one of the world's most challenging farming environments. While caldera sunsets draw global crowds, the sunrise over the farmlands, soft light illuminating vineyards and windmills, is equally stunning and offers a rare moment of quiet beauty. Locals speak of the island as if it is alive, often saying Santorini breathes because of the subtle ground temperature shifts and heat emissions around volcanic vents. Travel tip: embark on the early morning Fira to Oya hike to experience all three elevation layers, avoid the crowds, and witness some of the most cinematic views the island has to offer. Ultimately, Santorini stands as one of the Mediterranean's greatest intersections of science, myth, and natural artistry, a living reminder of how destruction can give birth to incomparable beauty. Zakynthos Island, Ionian Islands. That phenomenon belongs to Zakynthos, the third largest jewel of the Ionian Islands, situated gracefully off Greece's western coast, where the waters deepen, the currents shift, and the coastline gleams with luminous color. The island rests atop a complex tectonic intersection, a restless zone shaped over millions of years by seismic forces that carved dramatic cliffs, sculpted stone arches, and hid entire coves beneath towering limestone walls. Its geological origins explain its striking duality: sheer, vertical cliffs dominating the wild western shores, while gentle, fertile plains stretch across the east, nurturing olive groves and farmlands that have fed generations. Even its ancient identity carries a profound sense of legacy. Homer referenced Zakynthos in the Iliad, and older traditions speak of Hyre or Zakynthos, a name linked to a mythical Trojan prince whose lineage gave the island its earliest story. Among its signature landmarks stands Navajo Beach, a secluded cove where the MV Panagiotis ship mysteriously ran aground in the 1980s, transforming the secluded bay into one of the most iconic photographed shorelines on the planet. The water in this bay glows an almost neon, electric blue due to calcite and limestone particles suspended in the sea, reflecting sunlight in a way that amplifies specific wavelengths and creates an otherworldly radiance. Another natural marvel lies in the blue caves, arched portals and hidden chambers where refracted sunlight bounces from below, illuminating the sea with surreal gradients of shifting blues that feel alive and constantly transforming. Zakynthos is also a sanctuary for the endangered caretta sea turtle, one of the most significant nesting sites in the entire Mediterranean, where ancient biological instincts still pull these creatures back to the exact sands of their birth. Marine biologists document thousands of nests every summer, tracking the turtles' long migrations and studying how these fragile shorelines support a life cycle that has survived for millions of years. The island's flora showcases incredible diversity, from delicate wild orchids blooming in shaded groves to dense clusters of cypress forests and ancient olive trees that have stood strong through centuries of storms and seismic upheaval. Its fauna includes the elusive Mediterranean monk seal, rare species of seabirds nesting along remote cliffs, and fish populations thriving inside protected waters fed by mineral-rich currents. Fun fact, Zakynthos became the first Greek island to establish an official national marine park, a landmark decision driven by its exceptional biodiversity and critical conservation needs. Local culture carries a strong Venetian imprint, reflected in musical traditions like cantades, serenades performed with lyrical harmonies, and in architectural styles that survived centuries of foreign rule. Traditional villages, such as Anafonatria, still preserve the authentic Ionian aesthetic with winding stone pathways, rustic houses, and courtyards lined with lemon trees and climbing flowers. The island's modern layout is also shaped by history. A devastating series of earthquakes in 1953 destroyed much of the old town, forcing residents to rebuild with resilience while preserving whatever fragments of the past they could save. Legends speak of sea spirits watching over the bays, stories likely inspired by the mysterious, glowing reflections and fluid light patterns that dance inside the blue caves. Some fishermen even claim to witness strange circular waves glowing at night, a phenomenon now linked to bioluminescent plankton swirling in rhythmic patterns created by shifting currents. Archaeological discoveries reveal layers of human presence, including Mycenaean chamber graves, remnants of ancient sanctuaries, and early Christian relics that trace the island's long spiritual timeline. Zakynthos's cuisine fuses Greek tradition with Venetian nuance. Think tender rabbit stews, citrus-infused fish dishes, and fragrant almond desserts that echo recipes passed down through generations. The island enjoys mild winters and scorching summers, with moist winds sweeping in from the Ionian Sea to cool the valleys and nourish vegetation far denser than what is found on many other Greek islands. These winds create refreshing microclimates responsible for the island's lush greenery, its fertile soils, and its surprisingly diverse ecosystems. Zakynthos remains a place where science and mythology blend so seamlessly that neither explanation alone ever feels complete, each offering a different lens through which to appreciate its luminous charm. Travel tip: join a guided eco-tour if you want to witness turtle nesting sites, ensuring that your visit supports conservation efforts and protects the fragile habitats these creatures depend on. Today, Zakynthos stands proudly as one of the Mediterranean's most extraordinary intersections of geology, biodiversity, deep-rooted culture, and radiant natural beauty, an island where every element seems to glow from within. Meteora, Thessaly. There is a place in Greece where the earth seems to stretch upward toward the heavens, as if trying to free itself from its own ancient weight. And no map, no matter how detailed, can ever fully prepare you for the first moment you see it with your own eyes. At first, all you perceive are shifting shadows, towering silhouettes sculpted by millions of years, standing watch in absolute stillness over the vast plains of Thessaly, like guardians carved by forgotten gods. Then as the light shifts, the landscape unveils itself. Colossal stone pillars rising vertically from the valley floor, so abrupt and otherworldly in their formation that they feel less like natural structures and more like monolithic visitors from another planet. This is Meteora, a name derived from the Greek meteoro, meaning suspended in the air, a title that feels less like a linguistic choice and more like a prophecy describing the impossible way these rocks defy gravity. Located in central Greece, Meteora's towering formations were created over 60 million years ago, shaped by prehistoric rivers, tectonic uplift, and relentless winds that carved the sandstone into the surreal, vertical structures seen today. Their walls stretch upward more than 400 meters, forming natural fortresses so imposing and inaccessible that early monks recognized them as sanctuaries untouched by earthly distraction. Centuries ago, hermits wandered into this landscape and saw not mere rocks, but pathways to the divine, silent stairways rising straight into the realm of prayer and contemplation. Determined to escape the chaos of the world below, they constructed monasteries atop these impossible peaks, hauling stones, timber, food, and even themselves using primitive ropes, woven nets, baskets, and hand-powered winches. The great Meteoron Monastery, the largest and highest of them all, still stands like a floating citadel, a stone island in the sky guarding centuries of sacred manuscripts, relics, and mysteries. Standing atop these cliffs feels almost supernatural. The valley seems to fade into the horizon. The winds soften into whispers, and every step upward feels like drifting further away from the ordinary world. Meteora's unique geology allows a rare plant species to grow from cracks where soil barely exists, while falcons carve circles in the sky above the pillars like ancient sentinels patrolling a forgotten kingdom. Fun fact, for generations, the monks replaced their ropes only when the Lord allowed them to break, a practice that feels both deeply faithful and hauntingly daring given the sheer heights involved. Local legends speak of mysterious nighttime chants echoing between the stone giants long after the monks have retreated to their quarters, as if the cliffs themselves continue the prayers. Others whisper about glowing lights that glide along the cliff edges at dusk, phenomena scientists attribute to reflections or moisture, though locals insist they belong to guardian spirits keeping watch. During World War II, secret chambers within the monasteries sheltered priceless manuscripts, icon, and treasures from occupying forces, protecting centuries of spiritual history from destruction. Meteora has long served as a sanctuary from invaders, from turmoil, and perhaps even from the erosion of time itself, standing resilient while empires rose and fell around it. Its cultural identity blends Byzantine ritual with mountain folklore and the deep-rooted Greek tradition of storytelling, creating a tapestry of beliefs that feel as old as the rocks themselves. Nearby villages preserve ancient customs, where evenings are spent sharing slow-cooked stews, honey-drenched cheeses, and wines made from grape varieties cultivated exclusively in this highland region. Scientifically, Meteora's cliffs remain partly unexplained. Researchers still debate why the sandstone forms such sheer, vertical sides instead of eroding into gentler shapes typical in other parts of the world. Some geologists argue these pillars were forced upward by tectonic pressure, rising like stone columns in a primordial altar. Others believe they are the remnants of an ancient lake, their strange forms carved over millennia by water currents that vanished long before humans ever arrived. The spiritual energy here is unmistakable. Every breeze feels like a quiet whisper of past prayers, and every shifting shadow seems to hold fragments of centuries-old devotion. Travelers often describe standing here as experiencing a space between realities, not quite anchored to the earth, yet not fully part of the sky, a suspended moment in time. Travel tip: arrive at sunrise when thin layers of mist weave between the pillars, making Meteora appear as though it is floating atop a sea of clouds. Meteora is not just a destination, it is a living miracle, suspended between geology, faith, and the enduring mysteries of the ancient world, waiting patiently for those willing to look upward. Milos Island, Cyclades, South Aegean. There is an island in the Aegean where colors seem to dream wider than the horizon itself, where the sea glows an electric, impossible blue against cliffs sculpted by ancient fire. Yet its name is carried softly from mouth to mouth, whispered rather than shouted, as if it were a secret meant to be discovered slowly. Sail long enough through the Cyclades, past windswept channels, shimmering reefs, and villages perched like pearls, and you'll eventually find it, an island shaped like an open embrace. Its curved shores stretch wide as though patiently waiting for a new story to drift in with the tide. This is Milos, a place born from volcanic eruptions and woven through with myths, where love and beauty aren't just remembered in legends but feel like living forces shaping everyday life. Myth tells of a child rescued by Aphrodite, the goddess of love, who gifted the island her name and her blessing, leaving behind a spell so gentle and enduring that the island still feels touched by her presence. Perhaps that is why the Venus de Milo, one of the most iconic sculptures of all time, slept beneath Milos soil for centuries. Hidden like a secret the island wasn't quite ready to share until fate intervened. Milos cliffs rise like poetry written in stone, streaks of white, strips of crimson, and bands of gold layered together by volcanic heat and geological time. Walk along Sarikinico, and it feels as if you're strolling across a lunar dreamscape, where the wind sculpts the chalk-white rock into frozen waves, smooth curves, and surreal shapes that blur the line between earth and imagination. The sea surrounding the island glimmers in shades that border on unreal, teal dissolving into cobalt, turquoise dissolving into clear glass, as though the water is painting and erasing itself at the same time. Kleftico's legendary caves echo with stories of pirates who once hid within its arches. Each cavern carved with rumors of storms, stolen treasures, and shadows that still linger, like the remnants of forgotten adventure. The island's flora adds quiet bursts of color, pink oleander, wild thyme scented by the sun, and yellow blooms pushing through volcanic dust as symbols of resilience and quiet beauty. Dolphins sometimes glide and dance near the shores, reminding visitors that joy has always lived freely in these waters and still returns without invitation. Villages like Klima shimmer with pastel charm, rows of colorful Cermata boathouses touching the sea so closely they look like floating homes crafted for mermaids or sea spirits. Fun fact, these bright colors once served a practical purpose, helping fishermen spot their families' boats from far across the water after long, unpredictable days at sea. On Milos, love is not just an emotion. It is etched into the cliffs, breathed into local stories, and painted across the sky in every glowing sunset that washes the island in warmth. Couples wander through narrow and cobblestone streets, perfumed with jasmine blossoms and sea salt carried on the wind, as if walking through a living postcard. At night, the moonlight reflects off the island's volcanic stone, turning its surface into a shimmering silver world where reality feels lightly enchanted. Locals speak softly about strange humming sounds that sometimes echo from deep inside hidden caves, said by some to be the lingering voices of ancient gods or forgotten rituals. Whether these echoes belong to myth or geology hardly matters. Milos wears its mysteries gently, never asking to be solved, only inviting you to wonder. Festivals here honor old Cycladic customs, music drifting under star-studded skies, dancers moving barefoot on sandy squares, and meals shared between neighbors, visitors, and anyone drawn into the celebration. The island's cuisine feels like an embrace, freshly grilled octopus, lemon-soaked potatoes, creamy cheeses, and capers bursting with salty brightness harvested from the island's arid fields. Volcanic soil enriches everything that grows here, adding a deep, ancient flavor to every ingredient, as if the earth itself signs each dish. Natural thermal springs warm patches of land, creating subtle pulses of heat where the island's volcanic heartbeat feels close enough to touch with your fingertips. Sunsets unfold slowly over Milos, turning the cliffs a tender pink, then a glowing gold, and finally a soft violet as evening settles over the sea. Travel tip: book a sunset sail. Milos becomes a drifting masterpiece when seen from the water, every cliff and cove illuminated like a moving painting. In the end, Milos is more than an island. It is a love story written in stone, light, sea breeze, and myth, waiting for anyone willing to listen to its quiet magic. Mount Olympus, Thessaly, and Macedonia. Imagine driving along the northern Greek coastline, gazing at peaceful seaside villages and a calm blue horizon, and then suddenly seeing a massive mountain erupt upward from the earth as if trying to break out of the atmosphere itself. So abrupt, so colossal, it feels almost unreal. That beast is Mount Olympus, the tallest, most iconic, most mysterious, and unquestionably the most legendary mountain in the whole of Greece. It stands straddling the regions of Thessaly and Macedonia, positioned precisely where the gentle agricultural plains end, and the rugged, untouched wilderness begins like a gateway into another realm. And of course, this isn't just any mountain. It is the mountain, the divine throne of the 12 Olympian gods, according to ancient Greek mythology, the place where Zeus himself was said to rule the cosmos. The terrain shifts fast and dramatically. Dense forests full of chestnut and oak at the base, cooler pine and fir zones halfway up, and bare, rocky summits at the top that look like the roof of a world untouched by time. Mytica's, the highest point of Olympus, almost always has clouds swirling around it, creating a natural halo that makes the peak look like it's wearing a crown of mist. Along the trail, you'll encounter agile wild goats leaping over cliffs, eagles gliding in wide circles above, rare alpine flowers clinging to cracks, and forests scented with herbs that smell exactly like the mountain tea sold in local tavernas. Fun fact, Mount Olympus is so tall and imposing that it generates its own weather system. Bright sunshine near the coastline, while storms rage around the summit at the very same moment. Villages like Litakoro sit at the mountain's foot with postcard charm. Stone paths, wooden balconies, cozy tavernas serving hot dishes, and locals who love sharing stories about their mountain with the pride of generations. Down by the shore, the Aegean Sea reflects the mountain's mood, shifting from deep cobalt to bright turquoise depending on the day's winds, currents, and light. Ancient ruins at Dion show how early Greeks once worshipped Zeus and the Olympian gods at the base of the mountain, long before they dared to climb into what they believed was sacred territory. Olympus also hides countless mysterious corners, echoing caves where hikers swear they hear whispers, ridgelines where fog appears in seconds, and remote plateaus that feel untouched by modern time. During wartime, rebels and resistance fighters used Olympus as a strategic refuge, taking advantage of its brutal terrain and hidden routes to evade enemies. The food around the mountain is hearty and comforting. Crispy mountain pies, smoked meats, wild mushroom dishes, local honey so fragrant it almost tastes like flowers, and fresh trout from cold-running streams. The mountain is also home to natural springs whose crystal clear water is filtered through layers of limestone, making it some of the purest water in the region. Every segment of the hike feels like stepping into a new ecosystem: deep green forest, mysterious fog, exposed rock walls, and then the wide open sky. Higher up, the silence hits with a different kind of force. You hear your heartbeat, the wind sweeping across the stones, and nothing else. Reaching the top feels like standing on the edge of Greece itself, with the entire Aegean Sea spread out below like a shimmering blue carpet. It's no wonder the ancient Greeks believed the gods lived here. The mountain doesn't just look extraordinary, it feels genuinely otherworldly. Travel tip: always pack layers because Olympus's weather can shift dramatically every 500 meters of elevation, turning sunshine into storm in minutes. Mount Olympus is not merely a mountain. It is Greece's greatest legend made real in stone, cloud, wind, and pure untamed adventure. Naxos Island, Cyclades, South Aegean. There is an island in the South Aegean where the wind carries a sweetness you can't quite name, as if the air itself has been blessed by something ancient and joyful, like a whisper left behind by gods who once wandered its hills. At first, and all you notice is an endless stretch of blue and a distant silhouette rising slowly from the horizon, calm and modest, hiding its centuries of secrets in the most effortless, natural way. But sail closer and the island reveals its true presence, shedding its modesty. Naxos, the largest and most quietly powerful jewel of the Cyclades, resting with a confident stillness between the more boisterous islands of Mykonos and Paros. Formed through tectonic uplift, volcanic movements, and relentless geological pressure, Naxos has held its form for millions of years, standing resilient against storms, shifting seas, and the rise and fall of civilizations. Myth says the island was blessed by Dionysus, the god of wine, celebration, and eternal joy, which might explain why the land feels so abundantly alive, fertile, warm, and humming with a gentle, welcoming energy. According to legend, Dionysus loved Naxos so deeply that he gifted its inhabitants endless vineyards, sweet fruits, strong harvests, and a spirit of hospitality so vibrant it still defines the island's soul today. The first sight greeting many travelers is the Portara, a colossal marble doorway standing alone on a tiny islet, appearing like the monumental entrance to a temple the earth swallowed long ago. When the sun begins to set, this massive portal glows molten gold, framing the horizon in a way that feels less like architecture and more like a supernatural gateway between worlds. Beyond its shimmering coastline, Naxos blossoms with olive groves, citrus trees heavy with scent, and wild herbs whose perfume drifts across the roads leading deep into the island's mountainous heart. Mountain villages, such as Apeiranthos and Philauti, form the soul of Naxos, stone-built, quiet, wrapped in tradition, and filled with stories of artisans, shepherds, musicians, and poets who shaped the island's character. Towering above every village and coastline is Mount Zas, the highest peak in the Cyclades, named after Zeus himself, who legend says spent part of his divine childhood hiding and learning among these cliffs. Follow its trails and you'll watch the landscape transform, farmlands fading into cool, shaded forests, then giving way to rugged rock faces where falcons glide silently through the air. Fun fact, Naxos was once the economic powerhouse of the ancient Cyclades, thanks to its high-quality marble, fertile land, and central position in Aegean trade networks. The island holds deeply layered history, Mycenaean settlements, ancient sanctuaries dedicated to forgotten gods, Byzantine chapels decorated with fading frescoes, Venetian towers from medieval rule, and archaeological remains scattered across windswept hills. Some locals whisper stories about strange lights flickering near the Portara at night, believed to be the remnants of unfinished rituals or offerings meant for a deity who never arrived. Others claim that mountain caves carry echoes that resemble distant chanting, though scientists insist it's nothing more than acoustics and shifting wind currents. Cultural traditions remain remarkably alive here. Festivals where violins and lutes fill the warm night air, and villagers dance in open squares under moonlight, as if honoring Dionysus with every step. The island's livestock, especially its free-roaming goats, contribute to Naxos's famous cheeses, such as arsenico and anthotyro, each with flavors shaped by the herbs they graze on. The coastline reveals beaches with crystal-clear water, reflecting shades of blue so pure and luminous they seem almost unreal to the unprepared eye. The charm of Naxos lies in its duality, sacred yet simple, ancient yet lively, mountainous yet coastal, quiet yet deeply expressive. Travelers often describe the island as a place where myth blends effortlessly with daily life, making it feel as though the stories of old are still happening just out of sight. Travel tip: stay at the Portara until the sun dips below the horizon. The golden light turns the marble frame into a living doorway between mythology and reality. Naxos is more than an island. It is a landscape where gods once walked, and where their blessings still echo softly through stone, sea, breeze, and song. Mykonos, Cyclades, South Aegean. In the central Cyclades, positioned with almost strategic precision in the open waters of the South Aegean, lies Mykonos, an island known for centuries as the Island of the Winds, a name earned long before tourists arrived, when sailors feared and worshipped its powerful gusts. Its geological origins trace back to ancient tectonic uplift and relentless erosion over millions of years, leaving behind a rugged, rocky landscape sculpted by the fierce seasonal Meltemi winds that continue to shape, polish, and define its shoreline. According to Greek mythology, Mykonos is the very place where Hercules defeated the giants during one of his legendary battles. And many locals still say that the island's jagged rock formations are the petrified remains of those fallen giants. Mykonos's terrain is a striking blend of granitic hills, soft sandy coastlines, and crystal-clear waters whose high salinity refracts sunlight so intensely that the sea often glows in brilliant, unreal shades of turquoise. The island's most iconic landmark is the famous row of traditional windmills, built by the Venetians centuries ago to mill wheat. Their stark white forms standing proudly on the hillside as symbols of Mykonos's historic connection to trade and maritime life. Today, these windmills gaze down upon the waterfront district known as Little Venice, a place where medieval houses were built with foundations directly over the sea, their balconies hanging above the crashing waves like viewing decks from another era. Little Venice remains one of the most photographed locations in all of Greece, thanks to its surreal architecture, vibrant nightlife, and sunsets that transform the entire bay into a painting of gold and rose. Mykonos is also home to the extraordinary Church of Panagia Paraportiani, an architectural masterpiece formed from 5 interconnected chapels built across centuries, creating a structure so unusual it looks sculpted rather than constructed. The old town of Kora forms a cycladic labyrinth with narrow, twisting alleyways, whitewashed buildings, and brightly colored doors, a layout intentionally designed to confuse pirates who once raided these islands. Fun fact, these winding streets were never meant to be logical or symmetrical. Their chaotic arrangement was a clever defensive strategy, slowing invaders while giving locals a chance to escape or hide. Although Mykonos has become globally famous for its nightlife, hosting some of the Mediterranean's most iconic clubs and beach bars, the island offers far more than revelry. Beyond the party scene lies a coastline with more than 25 unique beaches, ranging from luxurious, fully serviced shores to quiet, untouched strips where the Aegean feels completely wild. The island's wildlife includes the beloved Mykonos pelicans. Originally introduced in the 1950s when a fisherman rescued an injured bird named Petros, who became such a cherished local figure that pelicans have since become the island's unofficial mascots. These birds, often seen wandering the harbor or posing with tourists, continue to symbolize Mykonos's quirky charm and its deep bond with maritime life. Vegetation across the island reflects the Aegean's demanding climate. Tough olive trees, hardy shrubs, aromatic herbs, and seasonal blossoms that cling to the rocky soil and sway under the constant breath of the Meltemi. Mykonos's culture blends Cycladic tradition with centuries of maritime heritage and a strong Venetian influence, visible in everything from its architecture to its music and long-standing community rituals. Nearby Delos, just a short boat ride away, is one of the most significant archaeological sites in the world, once serving as a major religious and commercial center in ancient Greece. The uninhabited island still preserves extraordinary artifacts: temple columns, intricately detailed mosaics, marble statues, ancient marketplaces, and inscriptions that offer a vivid glimpse into life thousands of years ago. Local myths describe strange lights that appear on windy nights, reflections said to dance across whitewashed walls and the sea, phenomena that science attributes to moonlight angles, but locals claim come from restless spirits or wandering gods. Other tales tell of sailors who believed the winds around Mykonos were controlled by Aeolus, the mythical keeper of the winds, a belief that makes sense when you feel the raw force of the Meltemi sweeping across the island. The island's long history spans the eras of ancient Greece, Roman rule, the Byzantine Empire, and Venetian occupation, each leaving traces in its architecture, local dialect, religious practices, and folk traditions. Every era layered another story onto Mykonos, creating a cultural fabric far more complex than its modern party reputation suggests. Travel tip: plan your beach visits early in the day, because by midday the Meltemi winds intensify sharply, changing water conditions and sometimes making the sea unexpectedly rough. Mykonos today stands at a rare crossroads where myth flows into modern culture, where natural beauty meets luxury, and where the island's fierce winds continue to sculpt not only its landscape but also its timeless identity. Paros Island. Cyclades, South Aegean. Somewhere in the Aegean, there is an island where the air tastes of sea salt and wild thyme, and where life moves to a rhythm so ancient and gentle that it feels as though time itself has softened here out of respect. You notice its silhouette first, a tender rise of hills, whitewashed villages perched like floating constellations above turquoise water, each corner glowing in the sun like a quiet promise. This is Paros, the calm and steady heart of the Cyclades, where serenity and vibrance coexist effortlessly, embracing one another the way old friends do after years of shared stories. The island was shaped by volcanic origins, its cliffs and headlands carved slowly by centuries of wind, salt, and time, leaving behind a landscape that feels both fragile and eternal. Parakia greets you with nearly 2,000 years of memories, stone paths polished by generations, secret squares shaded by climbing vines, and the ancient church of Panagia Ecatantapiliani, standing with the kind of elegance only millennia can give. Walk its narrow streets and you'll feel history brushing past your shoulders like a gentle breeze, as if the past is still wandering here, unhurried and curious. Nusa lies to the north, a romantic harbor where sunset paints the sea in soft strokes of peach and rose, and fishing boats sway gently as if performing a dance passed down through generations. At night, its winding alleyways glow with lanterns, soft music, and the familiar sound of laughter drifting like perfume through the air. Farther inland, the Byzantine road crosses rolling hills and quiet landscapes, a stone pathway once walked by pilgrims, farmers, travelers, and lovers, each step echoing centuries of footsteps. Paros nature forms a soothing palette of olive groves shimmering under sunlight, vineyards climbing terraces, fig trees heavy with sweetness, and wild herbs perfuming the breeze. Birds spiral above peaceful valleys, and the island's shorelines shimmer with underwater life, visible even from the cliffs above. Fun fact, Paros's renowned marble is so pure and translucent that light can pass through it, giving ancient sculptures a soft, inner glow that makes them appear almost alive. Villages like Lefkis feel frozen in time, marble steps warmed by the sun, white homes framed by bright bougainvillea, and grandmothers gossiping from balconies like they've done for decades. Artisans continue the island's long tradition of craftsmanship, carving marble, weaving textiles, painting ceramics, and creating jewelry inspired by myths, the sea, and the island's gentle soul. Legends linger too, whispers of forgotten tunnels beneath Perikia, stories of mysterious lights drifting near old marble quarries on moonlit nights, and tales of spirits guarding ancient sanctuaries on nearby Despotico. The smaller islands neighboring Paros, Antiparos, and the lagoon-like Pantaronisia offer untouched coves where silence becomes a rare luxury, and the water glows with impossible shades of blue. Beaches across Paros shift in style and mood, from calm golden stretches to the sculpted granite formations of Colimbitras, where nature carved its own abstract artwork. The sea here contains what feels like infinite shades of blue, each one more transparent, more luminous, more serene than the last. Paros feels like a painting with moving parts, alive, warm, and endlessly inviting, its beauty expressed through both grand landscapes and the smallest details. It is a place where returning feels natural, almost inevitable, as if the island has been quietly waiting for you to come back. Travel tip: wander through the alleys of Nausa just after dawn, when the village is still half asleep and the sea glows like polished silver beneath the soft morning light. Paros is a gentle masterpiece, an island where time slows, senses heighten, and beauty reveals itself one soft, unforgettable moment at a time. Roads: Dodecanese Islands, South Aegean. Some islands feel touched by the sun, but roads feel sculpted by it, shaped slowly and deliberately, as if every stone, wave, curve of coastline, and drifting shadow has been warmed and blessed by centuries of uninterrupted light. You approach it slowly across the open Aegean, watching the coastline emerge like the opening lines of an ancient story, expanding moment by moment until the entire island feels like it's unfolding right in front of you. Rhodes lies at the natural crossroads between Greece and the East, a place where civilizations met, traded, fought, rebuilt, and blended, leaving behind layers of culture, memory, and myth that linger in the air. Ancient legends say Helios, the sun god, chose this island as his bride, bathing it in the softest, most radiant golden light as a gesture of eternal devotion. Even its breezes feel older than time, carrying hints of pine resin, sea spray, wild herbs, and the distant echoes of forgotten stories whispered across centuries. The medieval old town rises like a stone labyrinth, massive walls, Gothic arches, fortified towers, and thick gateways that seem to murmur secrets of crusader knights, battles fought, and alliances forged in moonlit halls. Walk its narrow streets at dusk, when the lanterns glow and footsteps soften, and you'll hear echoes that feel centuries old, quiet murmurs, distant footfalls, or perhaps just your imagination blending with history. The palace of the Grand Master towers over the city with undeniable pride, its golden limestone walls glowing like a fortress crafted for emperors, storytellers, and myth weavers. Along the coast, Rhodes shifts moods and colors, one stretch offering white sand beaches, another hiding emerald coves, and others opening into wild, windy capes where the sea crashes with raw intensity. The waters surrounding the island hold countless moods, sometimes calm and glassy like polished stone, sometimes fierce and roaring like they're reliving old battles, but always shimmering in impossibly blue tones. Nature, too, is astonishingly generous. Pine forests drape the hillsides in deep green waves. Flowers bloom in hidden glens, and the island's rare Dama deer wander with a regal calm, carrying the elegance of Rhodes itself. Fun fact, Rhodes is one of the sunniest islands in all of Europe, a place where summer doesn't simply arrive, it settles in lovingly and seems to stay forever. Myths cling to the cliffs and the harbor walls, stories of Helios and his radiant love, of the long-vanished Colossus towering above the port, and of hidden treasures buried beneath the medieval city. On certain nights, villagers whisper about flickering lights moving near the old harbor, believed by some to be the lingering spirit of the ancient wonder calling out across time. In the villages, life slows to a gentle rhythm, with laughter echoing beneath vine-covered terraces and elders sharing stories beneath the soft glow of a rising moon. Small offshore islands like Simi and Chalky shimmer nearby like scattered gems, each with its own quiet magic, pastel houses, and peaceful bays. The island's landscapes shift their mood as the day unfolds. Morning light washes everything in tender gold. Midday burns bright and bold, and sunsets transform the sky into layers of crimson, amber, and violet. Even the ruins feel alive here, softened by sunlight, shaped by wind, still holding the warmth and stories of the people who walked among them long ago. Rhodes is a place where mystery and warmth exist side by side, where each winding path feels like an invitation to explore deeper into its stories and its sunlit soul. It's the kind of island that lingers in your memory long after you leave, like a whispered tale or a dream half remembered. Travel tip: visit the Valley of the Butterflies early in the morning to witness the forest undisturbed, glowing softly with the quiet movement of wings. Rhodes is sunshine wrapped in myth, a radiant island of knights, gods, legends, and unforgettable light, sculpted by time and illuminated by its own eternal glow.